So we've looked at studies and basic introduction to the experimental method and correlations, and now we're going to look at psychological theories. And just a reminder that this is a really brief unit. I do find that looking at the nitty-gritty and all the specific details of research methodology works much better halfway through the course or much later in the course when students have got a wealth of knowledge of studies to actually draw from and latch on to the different types of methods and go, oh, that was that method, that was that method, that was that method. It's a little bit easier. At the moment, they're kind of blank canvases and it's a little tricky. It's, you know, like trying to build a roof without a house. I think it's, yeah. All right, what I would do as a recap is just go back through and look at the positive and negative correlations from what they did yesterday, and maybe if share out a little bit more of their alternative explanations if you didn't get a chance to finish that in the previous lesson. Yeah, go through these. And I mean, traffic lights is a good way to see if everyone's on the same page, right? If it's a positive correlation, they can hold up a green, negative, red, yellow if they're not really sure what it is. Okay, so just to get them, the purpose of these review slides is just to get students thinking, just refresh their memory basically of what we did. Okay, so basic intro today. What's the purpose of a psychological theory? I find that this can be really helpful to get students actually comprehending theories when we look at them later on. When you come to social identity theory, to understand it in the abstract is really tough, but if you go, what's the purpose of the theory? What's it trying to explain? Then it becomes a little bit easier to comprehend. Now this is an activity which is just to get them to try and understand the purpose of a theory. There's a short history of war. You can watch this clip. It's about 4 minutes, and little explosions go off around the globe where wars have happened. And the bigger explosion, the bigger the war. Battles, I think it was. And you'll see a pattern. And the two patterns are that as time goes on, they get more and more frequent. And they mostly happen in Europe. And what I want students to try and do is first identify those patterns. So in psychology, that's like, okay, I've identified a phenomenon. And then, all right, explaining it. Can you explain that phenomenon? And maybe some really smart students will come up with, perhaps it's population. Europe's really densely populated, so that could lead to more conflict. And that's to do with location and with the time. Maybe as well as the population is growing. And technology. As technology is advanced, maybe that led to more conflicts. And so what they've done there is they've come up with a theory, right? They've identified a phenomenon and they've come up with a possible explanation to explain that, which is what, you know, a really simple definition of a theory is. Okay. And so, yeah, so basic introduction to what a theory is, and then more psychological theories, they try to explain behavior and cognition. Okay. And then so we can give it a couple of examples. Social identity theory. It's a theory that tries to explain how your social identity can influence or lead to behaviors like prejudice and discrimination. Social cognitive theory, how observing other people, we can learn our behavior by watching other people, right? So, and it's very basic. Schema theory, yeah, we can explain those. Right, so page 26, this is in the textbook, right? They can talk about what they think they have in common, and then read the lesson on read the full lesson, so they can just be doing some reading, and then answer the guiding question in the workbook, right? And here it is, yeah. All right, and then if they finish a critical thinking extension, there's space in the workbook, there's a Venn diagram, comparing and contrasting theories and models. Again, this is an extension because I don't think it's absolutely essential to be covering that at this stage in the course, but it's a good extending activity for students. Right, and yeah, that's the compare and contrast theories and models. At the end of the lesson, I would just review, right, this is the last lesson of the introduction unit. They're about to go into doing a test, probably, right, if you follow the unit, or whatever your own test is going to be. And so I would remind my students to make a note, right? What are the key terms you're not sure of? Are there spaces from your workbook that are missing? And are there any other questions that they have about the test, just to make sure they're going to feel prepared? The next lesson we're going to look at is a unit review. So I always like to have at least one lesson before a big test that we just review everything and it's time to study and ask questions and go through. So that's coming up next.